Shalom, Lord in Christ. We'll be starting in one moment. Shalom, Squad. Yahweh Shem Yashai B'Atzah. If you can hear the music playing, put a one in the chat. Come, Most High in Christ. We'll be starting in one moment. Hey, Shalom, Yahweh Shem Yashai B'Atzah. To all the brothers, Yahweh Shem B'Ashem Yashai. To all the sisters, I'm Priest and Officer 1000 Zabaja of the ISUPK. Started out of 1 West, Harlem, New York. Salakia started out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General YAHANNA. We've been teaching since 1969 that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites, right? And we're the second day into the Feast of Dedications, right? Second night into the Feast of Dedications, Hanukkah in the Hebrew, right? This is the history of, this is a celebration that was, uh, it came about during the time of Greek captivity, right? Every nation has had part of our captivity. Every nation has made merchant of Israel, right? They've turned us to merchandise. This is like they've treated us like cattle. They've used us to build their society. That's why a country like Canada is so great, because they've used Native Americans to literally build their society. And even when they make treaties that they turn around and break, they they still use Native Americans, right? Meaning they made treaties with Native Americans that they could live on reservations. Now they're going through those reservations to put pipelines, right? At all costs, they're going to use the children of Israel to benefit them. Right. So the water for tuning in, right? If you're watching, like, subscribe, and share this video. Shalom Yahweh Shem Yashai to all the brothers, right, and all the sisters. The water Sakad for tuning in. Yahweh Shemar Alathamba Shem Yashai to all the sisters, right? So don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video with all your. Just put it on all social media. Right now, we're live out of the Barber from Library, right? And periodically we'll be going live from different locations. So if you want to join us, you could always come through and join us, ask your questions. You can hit me up in the back chat through email, or through uh, you could always message I.S.U.P.K Canada Facebook, I.S.U.P.K Canada on IG. We also have a TikTok, I.S.U.P.K Canada. You can find me on Zabaja Benjamite, right? Zabaja Benjamite on Facebook, and Zabaja on IG. All right, so we're gonna get into it real quick. We're gonna get into it real quick, right? So this is the history of the Maccabees, right? And it's what we're gonna talk about is good leadership and integrity, right? Because a leader needs to have integrity. If you don't have integrity as a leader, you just get the house of consciousness, you get fake Israelite groups, you get the NOI, the Nation of Islam, right? The Nation of Islam has never had good and good leadership. You could see, you judge a man by his fruits, right? You see the tree that is the Nation of Islam and the fruits that they've produced, right? They've killed their own brothers. In ISUPK, you can't kill a brother. In ISUPK, there's counsel. There is no harming any of the brothers. All right. So we're going to get into what good leadership is. All right. And the leadership that we have now is now, for brothers and sisters in the world, you think your Christian pastor is a leader. You think your politician is a leader. You think that the Edomite that comes through, or the Jake or the sister that comes through every 4 years of community to ask for a vote, that is not a leader. Jay-Z is not a good leader, right? Cardi B, Meg the Stallion, Beyonce, those aren't our leaders. If you're looking for a leader, you just gotta search I.S.U.P.K. Commanding General YAHANNA, he is an excellent leader, right? There's no, you can't find any Salakia, any guile, right, within the leadership of Commanding General YAHANNA, right? So our Christian pastors, they haven't done anything but led us astray for since the beginning, right? Since the beginning of time, we've always had some type of Christian, some type of leader that wants to make a deal with a heathen, right? Martin Luther King said he had a dream that we'd be hand in hand with our oppressors. His dream was to basically walk down the street with Becky. His dream was that we would lose all black businesses, right? He later turned around and realized Salakia. He later turned around and realized that he brought us into a burning house. Right? If you could hear this video clearly and the audios are right, put a 1 in the chat. Put a 1 in the chat if you could hear the video clearly and the audios are right. If you have any questions, type them in. Right? Any questions pertaining to the subject, type them in, or just any questions in general, type them in. We'll try to get you the answer, and if we can't get the answer right away, I'll always tell you to tune back in, and I'll get you the answer for the next class. Right. So first, we're gonna start with Isaiah 56:10. Right. Isaiah 56:10. His watchmen are blind; they are all ignorant. Right. The Most High set watchmen for Israel. Right. That would be like a man in the tower with a shofar. Right. He would blow that ram's horn and let us know dangers on the horizon. Right. He would be vigilant to let us know what's happening, or listen, you have to do this and this, or the plagues are coming. Right. Moses was a watchman for us. Right. We've had many leaders who are watchmen. Today, the watchmen that we have, the TD Jakes, the bishops, and the so-called TD Jakes, the so-called Kurt Franklins, the Creflo Dollars, the Polites, the fake Israelites of the world, they're all blind. They're not able to tell you what's happening next. They're not able to tell you that the Most High is on his way. Right, the Most High is about to send Christ with the angels and the flying saucers and the IFOs and the flying rolls. He's about to send all of that for Israel. Right, you have now look in the States, you had Thanksgiving just passed by. Right, the tribe of Gad, they had a bad leader. They had Squanto. Right, Squanto went and did what every Christian pastor always does: goes and makes a deal with your enemy. We're not supposed to make deals with our enemy. Right, and we'll get that in a moment, but you're not supposed to make any covenants with them. Right, so let's get back to Isaiah 56:10. His watchmen are blind; they are all ignorant; they are all dumb dogs; they cannot bark. Sleeping. Right, they're all ignorant; they're dumb dogs; they can't bark. Right, they don't know the time that we're living in. They can't see that coronavirus is here. Right, who sent it? The Most High sent it. A bird cannot fall from the sky without the Most High authorizing it. So if you have a global pandemic, a global plague, who else would have authorized it? The Christian church is not letting us know that this is the work of the Most High. Right, the Christian church actually shut its doors. Their doors are shut. Their doors are shut, and now service is online. They still want your tithes. You can't get a pastor on the phone to answer a simple question. You can't get a pastor to come to your house and pour some oil on your head. Right? These are all things that the priest would be doing. Right? They're all ignorant. They can't discern the time that we're in. Again, we're in Isaiah 56:10. They are all dumb dogs. Right? Now, what is a dumb dog? What do you now listen, if you go out to where rich Edomites live, they walk around with dogs and purses. But if you ask a farmer, if you ask a man who lived on the land why he had a dog, he would tell you it's to sense danger. Right? Like, you keep a dog outside, so when that dog has keen hearing, keen sense of smell. When that dog hears something that's out of place, it's going to start barking. When that dog smells something that's out of place, it's going to start barking. You'll be dead in your sleep and hear your dog barking. You'll be like, oh, snap, something is going on outside. Let's get back to what they said. They are all dumb dogs. How is a pastor a dumb dog? Because he's not telling you that abortion is wrong. He's not telling you that you shouldn't eat shrimp. He's not telling you that you're not supposed to eat lobster. That sister, you're not supposed to just break up with your husband because he's not making you happy. right? Who the hell ever said that marriage is supposed to be about happiness, right? Adam got a wife as a helpmeet. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be happy in your marriage, but there's some, I guess, in the world we live in today, everyone thinks that you have to be super happy all the time. You're not always going to be happy. There's going to be ups and downs. And just because you're going through some downs, some rainstorms, you're going to jump out of the boat, right? Now, think about it. There's a rainstorm. You're in a boat. There's a rainstorm on the horizon. You're in the middle of that rainstorm. It seems like it's going on for a while. Do you jump out of the boat? Do you go into the ocean and take your chances amongst the sea creatures of the ocean, amongst the sharks? No, you stay in that boat and you weather that storm out because there's always sunshine on the horizon, right? But your pastors are telling you that you can just listen, do whatever the hell you want. That's what they're telling you. They're telling you, listen, you can give your body to whoever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want, however the hell you want. And that our pastors are dumb dogs. They're ignorant. Our so-called leaders are dumb dogs and ignorance. In the ISUPK, you can't sleep with whoever you want. You need permission just to even talk to a sister. A sister can't just walk up to a brother and start talking to him about courting. You need permission. You have to go through a vetting process, right? Isaiah 56:10, his watchmen are blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark. Sleeping. Listen, they cannot bark. Can you imagine you had a dog that can't bark? Just think about it. You're outside walking in the nighttime on a walk. You have a dog. You think this beast is going to protect you. You have a Rottweiler, right? A Rottweiler that doesn't bark. Good night. You're not going to see that danger creeping up to you, right? All the dog does is lay down and sleep. Sleeping, lying down. You won't be able to. It's not doing nothing. That dog has his head down. It hears something. It looks. It doesn't bark. It just puts its head back down. Right, and that's what our pastors are doing. That's what the leadership that we currently have for brothers and sisters in the world is doing for us. They were loving to slumber, right? Let's finish it out. Loving to slumber. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. The leadership that Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans have outside of the UPK is asleep. They're sleeping on life. That's something we used to say in Toronto a lot. You are sleeping on life. They're sleeping on Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right. Hold up. Give me one moment. All right, we're gonna get on. Please, this is Deuteronomy. Salakia, give me a moment. Bear with me one moment. Right. So this is how our pastors are this is how our leadership is supposed to tell us this is what they're supposed to tell us when it comes to dealing with these heathens, right? They're supposed to have integrity enough to tell us to go to the book of Deuteronomy, right? And you could start at verse 1, right? But we're gonna jump down to Deuteronomy 7, verse 2, right? Deuteronomy 7, verse 2. And where the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, right? This is talking about all the nations that, you know what? I'll just start in verse 1, right? Deuteronomy 7, verse 1. When the Lord thy God shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, right? Meaning, when we're going back into our land, right? Israel, where the Canaanites were, right? And cast them out many nations before thee, right? These are nations that are being cast out before us: the Hittites and the Girgashites, the Amorites and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And this is the context, right? You're not supposed to make covenants with the heathens, right? And when, verse 2, and when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them with shall smite them and utterly destroy them. Right? Listen, we're supposed to destroy the heathens. Well, this is what was supposed to happen. Right? We, as we walked, as Moses passed, right, and Israel wanted leadership, and Joshua wasn't. So, like, I believe this is after Joshua. We had Saul. Saul was a bad leader. He wanted to make deals with the heathens. The Lord said not to make deals with these heathens. And when the Lord thy God shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, right, and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, no sure mercy unto them. Right. Verse 3 goes on to tell you about how we're not supposed to marry them, our sons, our daughters to their sons, or our sons to their daughters. We're not supposed to be dealing with these heathens on that basis. But all the time, you have leadership that wants you to make some type of deal with these heathens, wants you to make some type of covenant with them. Right. And as we read yesterday, opening the feast, we read about Israelites who wanted to make deals with these heathens. All right, so we're gonna go back into, where are we? Give me one moment. All right, just a couple more precepts before we go fully into the topic. Right, integrity. Right, Christ was a man of integrity. He definitely had integrity. Right, there was a time when Christ went into a temple and he seen all types of abominations happening in the temple, and he wasn't having it. So let's find out how Christ acted in this temple, right? And this is how our leaders are supposed to act, but that's not what's happening. Hey, Shalom, sis. Yahweh Shema Alatham Ba'Hashem Yahushai. Right? Shalom to Janice Bell, the water, for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in. Like, subscribe, and share this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to type them in. So let's get to John 2. Salakia. Let's get to John 2, chapter 2, verse 13. And the Jews' Passover was at hand. Right? So Passover is coming up. And Yahushua went up to Jerusalem. Right? This is John 2, verse 13. And Yahushua went up to Jerusalem. Now, for those of you that don't know, we have an excellent history. We have an excellent Lashawan Kodash class, the Holy Tongue, right, where you learn how to speak Hebrew. This is taught by Officer 50 Shariwan Ban Ban Yam Yam, right? So when you hear me say Yahushai, that's the Hebrew name for Jesus, right? So John 2, verse 13, and the Jews' Passover was at hand, and Yahushai went up to Jerusalem. Verse 14, and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and money and the changers of money sitting. Right. So he went into the temple and they turned it into a market. They turned it into some plaza. Listen, go to any ghetto plaza, and that's what they were doing to our temple. And when he made a scourge of small cords, listen, Yahushua, he got cords, right? He put them together, damn near braided them together. This is what's happening. And when he made a scourge of small cords, he drove them out of the temple. Now, how do you think a man is going to drive another man out of a room with small cords? Right? I'll let you sit on that one for a second. How does a man drive a man out of a room with small cords? Right? He was cocking back that cord and letting it fly on them. Basically, he was He was whipping them with the cords. Get out, like a father would do a disobedient child. Right. Yahushua was a righteous leader. Yahushua had integrity. He was an austere man. Let's get back to it. John chapter 2, verse 15. And when he made a scourge of small cords, he drove them. God. So like, yeah, Christ was definitely putting that work in. For for a lack of better words, he was. Listen, man. This is a brother. You didn't want no part of him. The Christ had hands, right? For he drove them out of the temple. He was whipping them, and the sheep and the oxen, and the powered and poured out the money, the changers' money, right? And overthrew the tables. Listen, he was turning over tables. Now, this is a man that they say is supposed to be all love. He's just love. He's just peace and love. He doesn't want to, he's never heard a fly. Salakia, listen, let me repeat that one more time. And when he made a scourge of small cords, he drove them out of the table. Right. And I'm going to jump down to the end of that verse and overthrew tables. Salakia, like, come on, Christ was not playing. And said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, not my father's house, and house of merchandise. Salakia, make not my father's house a house of merchandise. Listen, you can't turn this temple into a convenience store where you're gonna sell Lucy's. That's what he was saying. Right. All right, so let's get into what we're getting into tonight. We got a good one for you. We're gonna get into it tonight. All right. So we got First Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 1. In those days arose Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the son of Joarib from Jerusalem, and dwelt in Modin. Right. So they dwelt in a land near Jerusalem. This is Mattathias. He's a leader with integrity, right? He was the son of John. There were many people named John in the Bible, right? And he comes from priest, right? Verse 2, and he had 5 sons: Johanan, called Cadiz; Simon, called Thasis; Judas, who was called Maccabeus; Eliezer, who called Avaram; and Jonathan, whose surname was Aphus. Verse 5. And when he saw the blasphemy that were committed in Judah and Jerusalem, right? So this man was seeing blasphemies committed in Judah and Jerusalem, right? What are blasphemies? Blasphemies are things that go against the Most High's power, right? Like a blasphemy would be a white image of our King Christ, right? A white image of Yahushua is a blasphemy, right? To say that Yahushua is God is a blasphemy, right? When Yahushua was a dark man. Listen, Yahushua was Wesley Snipes dark, right? Yahushua was Wesley Snipes dark. He was not Caesar Borgia, not some homosexual that was sleeping with his own sister. All right, so let's get more into it. We got a bunch of reading that we're gonna go. Verse 7. I'll try to make it as quick as possible, but we'll probably do this class in 2 classes. We're definitely going to be going in through more of this throughout the rest of the Feast of Dedications, right? Keep those candles lit. He said, woe is me, wherefore I was born to see the misery of my people. If you live in, listen, any Any ghetto, any reservation, any barrio where blacks, Hispanics live, is misery, right? You get to see the misery of your people. Have you ever walked outside of your house and seen a brother or sister smoking crack? Have you ever walked? Listen, go down to Eglinton and Oakwood. Just walk down the street. You'll see some brother or sister panhandling for change so they can get high, and it's misery of our people and of the holy city, and to dwell there, where it was delivered into the hand of the enemy, and the sanctuary into the hand of strangers. Her temple is become as a man without glory. The temple was a glorious place. It was the house where the Lord dwelt, and it's become a man without glory. What's a man without glory like? If we were to talk about a man today without glory, just any celebrity. Look at every celebrity you could think of. Those men have no glory, right? Their glory is the riches of Esau's kingdom, right? But amongst their people, there's no man that stands up for his people. They might make a tweet about it, then backtrack it, right? You might see Jay-Z make a documentary about the 13th Amendment, where black men in the United States can be slaves if they're charged and convicted of crime and given jail time. Aside from that, there's nothing. He's not telling our brothers and sisters that they're not supposed to be out celebrating Thanksgiving, right? So Jerusalem became a temple, like the temple in Jerusalem became a man without glory. Verse 9, her vessels are carried away into captivity. They stole everything. Listen, if they could take the copper out of the building, they would. That's what they did. They stole everything. Just imagine that. You build a house, right? You come home, everything is gone. The drywall is stripped and taken down. The copper behind the walls is gone. The sink is missing. The toilet is gone. That's what they did. The railing for the stairs, the banister, this just is gone. They took it. Their infants are slain in the streets. They've been killing our children. This is you as we read this, you're going to see the parable of our life today and our life in the kingdom, right? And what it's like when we go against our power. I'm going to read that one more time, right? And just think of every young man that you've ever seen slain, right? Her glorious vessels are carried away into captivity. Her infants are slain in the streets, right? Listen, we have a oppressor that pushes abortion on our people like it is the solution. It is the solution for them. It's the same solution that Margaret Sanger and um, Hitler's um, Hitler's SS and top council would speak on. It was their final solution, right? Her young men with the sword of the enemy, right? Her infants are slain in the streets. Her young men with the sword of the enemy. They're killing us. The police are murdering our young men at every corner, and they're getting away with it, right? It wasn't until cell phones that you might actually hear of police actually getting charged. But aside from that, it was just water under the rug, water under the bridge. They didn't give a damn. Just sweep that dust under the carpet, put that clothes under the bed. They never cared. It looks clean. That's all that mattered to them. Once the union says they're cleared, or their special investigation units say they're cleared, it's listen, now that clothes went under the bed. Verse 10, one nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten over her spoils. Every nation makes a merchandise of us. Right? Every nation has always made merchandise of Israel, of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right. So let's get back to it. What nation has not had a part in her kingdom and gotten of her spoils? They've taken a part of every nation on the earth right now has made merchandise of Israel. They've all had us in captivity. Listen, the Arabs, they're in our neighborhoods. Salaki, I heard Arabs are making fried chicken in somewhere in the States. That is crazy. But then again, it's not crazy because you go to every fried chicken spot in Canada, at least in Toronto, all the KFCs are owned by the East Indians. All the Popeyes, right? You all the Mary Browns, all the Chicken Joys, all of them, all the fried chicken spots are owned by the East Indians and the Ishmaelites. All her ornaments are taken away. Of a free woman, she's become a bond slave, right? Israel was a prosperous nation, free, right? We came out of captivity and we destroyed our enemies and we were free. We were running things. And now we're slaves, right? You wake up every morning and you go to work and it's called a slavery. Hey, Shalom, Yahweh Yahshua Barakatha.
Shalom Adon Yahba Hashem Shabrakatah.
How's it going? You two up?
Everything to our my side. How about you, Adon?
Okay. 1 second. I'm not sure if it's mine. You're kind of low on my end. I have mine's all the way turned up. Give me one moment. All right. Trooper Brachiola, say something right quick.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect. That's perfect. I had to turn up on my end. We're in the first Maccabees Chapter 2, if you want to get with us right quick.
Fine.
Right? Israel, listen, you get up every morning and you go to work and you think, yeah, I got a job. I went to college and I have a job. I have a degree. I have some piece of paper that says my name and it says I have some credit from this oppressor school and I'm better than the black, Hispanic, or Native American person who doesn't have a job because I get to go to work for the oppressor. Nah, you get to slave for the oppressor. You don't control that company. You could work for that company for 50 years, straight up 50 years, and you can't appoint your son to some position in that company. You're slaving, straight up. Right? You could read 1 second. We hold. You could we're in first Maccabees chapter 2. You can give me verse 14.
Khan is the book of First Maccabees chapter 2, verse 14. Then Matthias and his sons rent their clothes and put on sackcloth and mourned very sore.
Right. So Matthias and his sons, they seen all the abominations happening in Jerusalem. This is thousands of years before Christ. They seen all the terrible things happening. Right. They took their clothes and they ripped it, right? And said, listen, this is a terrible time. Right. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans right now, and I'll say this especially for blacks and Hispanics. We're in a terrible time, but you want to worry about if your shirt is Gucci, if it's Prada, if it's a Chanel bag, if it's some stinking Birkin. You want to worry about how clean your shoes are and all that. You just want to be fashionable, right? When we got brothers and sisters smoking crack and dying of heroin every day, right? We want to worry about being fashionable. Matthias, they seen the things that were happening and they rented their clothes. Right? They tore it and put on sackcloth and they mourned. Right? You can read verse 15.
Verse 15. In the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city Modin to make the sacrifice.
Right. So the king's officers, they were making the people revolt. Right. It's just like what you see now. Like it's like you'll see some brother get killed and you want to go burn down a Walmart. right? You see the injustice happening to your people and knowing that this is not of the Lord, this is not supposed to be happening, and you want to destroy things. That's what was happening when these king's officers were coming in, because they were definitely destroying people, raping and murdering, right? And the people weren't receiving justice for it because these officers, they act like they're good, but they have no integrity, right? They cause people to revolt. You can read 16.
Verse 16. And when the men of Israel came unto them, Mattathias also his sons came together.
Right. So there's a time when, just imagine it like this. These officers are coming in, the king's officers are coming in to sacrifice pagan sacrifices to a pagan god, to a heathen god, to a dumb idol that doesn't move or do nothing. Right. And they gathered all Israel in the land that to come to them. Mattathias came with his sons. Read 17.
Verse 17. Then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias on this wise, Thou art a ruler, an honorable and great man in this city, with sons and brethren.
Right. So hold that right there. We're gonna read this one more time, right? So the king's officers, they go to Mattathias, they see him, right? And they go to him and they say, read from thou art in that same verse.
Thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city.
They told him, you're an
And
honorable, great man, you're a ruler in your city. That's what they told him. They told him that, listen, they recognize his prestige. They recognized his glory, his honor, right? They knew that this man was a leader, right? Now, Mattathias, he had the word of today is integrity, right? You need to have some integrity. You need to listen. I've heard a lot of evil over my years on this earth. I've heard black men say, I don't sell drugs to black people. Like, Salaki, excuse my French, you lying. You sell drugs to black people. And they'll say, Anna, I just don't sell drugs to black people. But listen, if that brother comes to you and asks you to buy some real, you're gonna sell it to him. Now he might not be using, but you sold it to him, right? If some brother comes up to you with 3 grand and you make 3 grand every month off of Edomite, and this brother comes to you one day with 3 grand, you're gonna take it and sell him the drugs. It doesn't matter if he ODs or not, right? You have to have integrity. Martin Luther King wanted Becky. He wanted the oppressor's daughter, right? And General Yohana does not want Becky. He does not want the oppressor's daughter, right? The commanding General Yohana is a man of integrity. Where were we? Keep reading.
verse 18. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment.
Okay, read that part one more time.
Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment.
Okay, so Trooper Baraki Allah. This is the king's guards, the king's officers coming to Mattathias, right? And he's telling they came to make sacrifice to their dumb idols in the land of Jerusalem, in this city, um Modin, right? And they see Mattathias and they say, you're honorable, you're a ruler, you're strengthened, right? Why did they come to him and say, come thou first, right? Why did they go to him and say, come thou first?
So lucky, I'm not sure how to one.
All right, so we're gonna keep reading, right? 1 second. All right, so we're gonna get the answer. So give me one moment. All right, so let's finish out this verse and then we're gonna go and I'll give you the answer. So you can read it one more time from the top. Salakia, you're breaking up.
Therefore, come thou first and like as all the heathen have done.
Salakia, you're breaking up. Read it one more time for me, Baba Kasha.
Khan, therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment.
Keep reading.
Yea, the man of Judah also.
Right, hold that right there,
And
right?
such
So
as
he's saying, hold that right there, Baba Kasha. Like as all the men, like 1 second, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, right? So he's saying like everyone's done this. Like the heathen do it, your brothers and sisters do it, right? Keep reading.
yea, and the man of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem. So shalt thou and thine house
Keep
be in
reading.
the number of the king's friends.
So he's basically telling them, like, listen, man, they tell you the same thing Donald Trump told you, the same thing Biden told you. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. Like, if you vote for me, I'll be your friend. I'll give you whatever you want. It's a game called Pimps and Hoes, right? Just to give it to you raw. It's a game of pimps and hoes. The politicians come to you every year and say, come vote for me. And we'll make sure you're blessed. We'll make sure you're good. Listen, you're being pimped. You're being hoed out straight up and down. Martin Luther King was a damn hoe. Malcolm X, like, listen, I liked him more than King. He was more militant, like, and the men of UPK were warriors, so we want that militant. And then when he got kicked out for disloyalty, he went right to the oppressors and they became his friends. And the oppressors watched him get murdered. They knew he was about to get murdered. They didn't do nothing to stop it. It's a game of pimps and hoes, right? He said, "Come be a friend of the kings. I will give you whatever you want, but listen, I'm going to give these Chinese this Asian hate bill first, right? I'm going to give you a reconciliation day, but I'm just not going to show up. I don't give a damn." And then the native chiefs and leaders, they cried about it. The tribe of Gad was crying because Justin Trudeau never showed up for the reconciliation day. Listen, how are you going to reconcile with an oppressor when they've killed your children and won't even do nothing about it? And where's the reconciliation? Right? If you want to reconcile, you need to have them in rulership. You want to reconcile with these oppressors. Okay, cool. Keep the laws and statutes of the Most High. And then listen, you can give them a little barbecue sauce on their feathers when we have the kingdom. Right? Let's where were we? Did you finish out verse 18?
Lord one.
You can keep reading it.
And thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards.
All right, so now bring us back to 18 and just read the first part and stop at the comma.
First Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 18. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment.
Right, so this is like, okay, so to break this down and why he's telling him to come thou first, because it gives you the answer in verse 17. Thou art a ruler. Mattathias was the ruler at that time, right? An honorable and great man. Everyone looked to him for leadership, right? Now, if you have a leader who tells you it's okay to go eat pork, you're gonna go eat the pork, right? Mattathias, they wanted him to come first because if everyone seen this big brother do it, they would do it. If everyone seen this man of renown do it, they would do it. If everyone seen this honorable man eat pork, they would go and do it, right? Mattathias, you're finding out he had integrity. Commanding General YAHANNA has integrity. All the generals, the captains, the officers, the troopers have integrity. The sisters have integrity. The children in our school have integrity. You ask, listen, you go to any child that's in our school who could talk and who understands what's going on, and you ask them, do you eat pork? They're going to tell you no. If you ask any of my brother's children, do you celebrate Christmas? They're going to tell you no. They're going to tell you la. They might just tell it to you in Hebrew tongue. Listen, there's certain children that will look at you and say la. They'll look at you and say Christmas la tuwa. Christmas no good. Right? And this is why they wanted him to come first. You can jump down to verse 19.
Verse 19. Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him, and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers, and give consent to his commandments.
Right. Bubba Kasha, Trooper Rocky Olive, break down that verse for us. Try your best to do it.
Um,
Right. Try to remember the context of what we're reading, right? The king's officers are coming to him and saying, listen, you have to make a sacrifice. And Mattathias is basically this is his reply now.
well, he's saying, even though everyone under the king is obeying him, um, and give and consent to his commandments, he will.
Well, we didn't exactly get to the part where he says what he will do, right? But for exactly what you said is exactly what it is. Like he's saying, though all these nations obey this king, right, and give consent to his commandment. Consent is basically is the go ahead, right? Now, if you want to go get with a sister and you want to tear fire, you want to get in that matrix, you can't just go take the matrix. You can't just go grab her up and tear a fire. She needs to consent to it, right? She has to be in agreement. That's what this is talking about. Although all these nations are in agreement with the king's commandments, right? Read verse 20.
Yet, verse 20, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers.
Right. Chapter 2, verse first Maccabees 2, verse 20. Right. He's saying that him and his sons are going to walk in the covenant of our fathers. Right. Meaning the laws, statutes, and commandments that Moses set down, they're going to keep that. You can continue reading.
Verse 21, God forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances.
Keep reading.
Verse 22, will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, either on the right hand or the left.
Right. So they're basically saying, listen, we're not doing that. We're just going to do whatever we want. And what we want is to do the Father's will. We're not doing the king's will. Right. That's what they're basically telling you. Again, Mattathias had integrity. Mattathias was a man that he wasn't playing around with his. He was all about that. there's no, there's no, there was no chink in his armor. There was no crack in his shield, right? He wasn't letting you get in so you could tell him that he has to eat this pork. He said, we're gonna obey our father. We're not obeying you. Give a damn about what you say. It's about what our father wants.
Wakan.
Da, 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 da. You could read 23, right? And side note, listen, if you want to know how the spirit of our father is, just read the Apocrypha, read the Maccabees, read read the stories of Joshua and all the wars that we fought, right? You're gonna find out that our 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 father is a man of war. He's not a man of daisies and sprinkles and sugar and sweetness and just let you do whatever the hell you want. That is not a good father. Do you know what happens when a father lets his child do whatever she wants? When a father lets his son do whatever he wants? Drug dealers and strippers, murderers and whores. It's not, it ain't that complicated. It's not that deep, but that's what it is. You let that child do whatever he wants, he's going to be a drug dealer. You let that child do whatever she wants, she's going to have an OnlyFans account. She's going to make some scandalous TikTok that she doesn't want played at her high school graduation. You could read 23.
Verse 23. Now, when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all.
Wait. Hold that right there. So when he finished saying that we're gonna follow our father, some some brother came up, right? For lack of better words, this is a bootlicker. This is some type of coon. This brother is a bootlicking coon. Read.
To sacrifice on the altar, which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment.
So this brother turned around and said, I'm not on one accord with Mattathias. Listen, I want to serve the king, right? This brother said, the Jews aren't black anymore. Give me back wilding out. This brother said, the Jews aren't black anymore. Give me back wilding out, and I'm gonna do an interview with a man from the tribe of Amalek, right? And that's what this brother said. And you see it all the time. You see so many people say they have integrity. They first start saying, like, listen, the the most dangerous place for a black child is the black woman's womb. Then they turn around and say, you can go do abortion because I need to get elected, right? Once again, if you're watching, like, subscribe, and share this channel. Hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. Right, hold up. Can't forget that tonight is Black Watch News. Right, Black Watch News tonight, 9 p.m. So let's put this one out. Black Watch News tonight, 9 p.m. Let's not forget that. Da 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 da. Right. So this man came down to he came to basically do whatever those heathens wanted him to do because he was weak. He had no backbone. Right. So like, and you could think of so many celebrities, so many false leaders who turn around and, for example, Louis Farrakhan, he would always say that the oppressor is the devil. He would always say that the white man is the devil of the Bible. He would always say that the white man is the devil, right? But because he lacked integrity, he turned around and said Scientology. He turned around and said Medea is the greatest. Now, when I say Medea, you have to remember I'm talking about Tyler Perry in a dress. He would say Medea is the greatest example of a black woman. A man in a dress, Tyler Perry in a dress. He started kissing his oppressors. Salakia. Read 24.
Verse 24. Which thing when Matthias saw, he was inflamed with zeal, and his reins trembled. Neither could he forbear to show his anger according to judgment.
Right, so hold
Wherefore,
up. What that is talking about, Mattathias saw this. His flame and zeal, like he's like, oh my gosh, I just want to go to war against this brother now. Right? He wanted to put this brother to death. Right? He wanted to make an example out of this. Listen, his love for his God, for our power, made him not want to do that. Made him not want to eat the pork, a sacrifice to that idol, right? And when he seen his brother step up and say, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna be a bootlicking coon, he was enraged. He said, I'm extra not doing that shit, Salakia, right? And he couldn't hide his anger, right? He couldn't hide his anger according to that judgment. He knew that that brother is supposed to be put to death, right? Put him on his pockets, right? There's no honor in that man. That man would see all of us go back onto the plantation. He was the Samuel Jackson of the Django. Keep reading.
wherefore he ran and slew him upon the altar.
He gave him a hug.
He slew him upon the altar,
He saluted him.
and slew him upon the altar,
He said, my brother, you're my brother. I'm going to eat the pork with you.
and slew him upon the altar.
He killed that man. He slew that man on the altar, right? Because his zeal was on 1,000%. Keep reading.
Verse 25. Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time. And
Wait, so
also
he killed the
pulled
king's
down.
men as well?
Like, what was that?
No, you can read it one more time.
Verse 25. Also the king's commissioner who compelled men to sacrifice, he killed at that time. The altar he pulled down.
Right. So he killed the king's officers at that same time, and he tore down those altars. Right. Listen, this is what you were supposed to do. Right. Mattathias knew what it was. He said, this is not happening. I'm not letting my people do this. Excuse me. Right. You could find this story in the Apocrypha. Everyone should have an Apocrypha. Right? It's an excellent. I don't have my 1611 with me, but I have an app. But sometimes when you want to get to like stories in the Apocrypha, you got to go deep into the middle of the 1611. When you have your little Apocrypha, I call this like the little sidearm. My 1611 is like a little rifle. This is like my 45 right here. Right? You pull it out quick. Just pull it out. Bomb. Got it. Ready to go. Right. But yo, so okay, where were we? Thus he's also for one. You
Verse
could read verse
26.
27.
So, like, what was that one?
You could read First Maccabees 2 and 27.
First Maccabees 27. And Matthias cried throughout the city with a voice, saying, whosoever is zealous of the law and maintains the covenant, let him follow me.
Right, because Mattathias, he had integrity. He said, if you are zealous of the law, meaning you want to keep the law of your father, you want to maintain the covenant that you have, follow me. Right? Listen, what Trooper Barakiala, what does every Christian pastor say about the law?
That the law is done away with.
Right. But Mattathias, a leader with integrity, he said what? You can take it from the whosoever.
Whosoever is zealous of the law and maintains the covenant, let him follow me.
Right. Mattathias didn't say the law is done away with. Go eat that pork. That's not what he said. Right. Read 28.
Verse 28. So he and his sons fled into the mountains and left all that ever they had in the city.
Listen, him and his son, they went into those mountains and left everything. And they turned around and left everything. They said, listen, forget about it. Let's get the hell out of here. This is familiar because this is damn near the same thing we did in Egypt. We packed up what we could, and what we couldn't got left behind. We had to go. We had to go so fast. We didn't have time to let the leaven rise up in the dough. So we made the bread. We made the dough without leaven. Right? Keep reading.
Verse 29. Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there.
All right. So, Barak Allah, do you want to take a shot at breaking down verse 29?
Kanana Wakan. So those who were opposed to the king, they left the city. They also left the city with Mattathias.
Salakia, read it. Repeat what you said one more time.
So those who were zealous of the law and opposed the king,
Right.
they went into the wilderness as well, like Mattathias, to well, because they were after justice and judgment.
Well, okay, so la'ah, right? Because if you read 28, you'll see where Mattathias and his sons went, right? So when we go to First Maccabees 2 and 28, it says, so he and his sons fled into the mountains. So Mattathias and his sons, they went into the mountains, right? But now we get to verse 29, there's a people who don't go with Mattathias and his sons, right? Because you have to remember, Matthew said, if you're zealous of the law and want to maintain the covenant, come with me. And they went into the mountains. So there are people who didn't go, Jews and Israelites who didn't go with Mattathias, right? So read verse 29 again.
Then many that sought after justice and judgment went down into the wilderness to dwell there.
Right. So were they wanted to be like the Greeks. They wanted to be like the king's officers. They didn't care about the law. They weren't zealous for the law. They didn't care about the covenant, right? They wanted to be like the Greeks. They wanted the justice of the Greeks. They listen. At the end of the day, these people weren't going to do the sacrifice, but they weren't. They didn't care to leave those people, right? They thought they could just hide out for a time and then come back and everything was be all right. But really, they wanted to be like the Greeks, right? Read 30.
Verse 30. Both they and their children and their wives and their cattle, because affliction increased sore upon them.
Right. So what that's saying is, listen, they knew that leaving these from under the king, their afflictions were going to increase. So they didn't really want to leave the king. So they didn't go up to the mountains because they knew up in those mountains was going to be hard living. It's a mountain. Try to grow food on a mountain, right? Compared to the wilderness, you can grow your crop, you can have your cattle, the cattle have to graze, and the goats have to eat, and the sheep have to eat. How do you do that on a mountaintop, right? Um, read 31.
Verse 31. Now, when it was told the king's servants and the host that was at Jerusalem in the city of David, that certain men who had broken the king's commandment were gone down into the secret places in the wilderness.
32.
Verse 32. They pursued after them a great number and having overtaken them, they camped against them and made war against them on the Sabbath day.
Right. So the king's men heard about what happened, right? Listen, Mattathias killed some of the king's men. Now that word gets back out to the people, about back out to the king. He sends his men to go find out what's happening, right? He found out that these people went into the wilderness to go hide. He said, "Okay, you think you're gonna go in the wilderness and go hide, right?" So he pursued after them, and he sent a large army of people to pursue after them. All right. And then all of this happened on the Sabbath day. A fake Israelite is going to get you killed on the Sabbath day. Just go watch any GMS video. You're going to see them consistently getting punched out. Right? You're going to see them go try to read the Bible. And demons jump on them. A demon's going to say, "Christ, I know." Right? But he's going to look at GMS and say, "Ye, I know not." Where we? Read 33.
Verse 33. And they said unto them, let that which you have done hitherto suffice.
Suffice.
So I can suffice. Come forth and do according to the commandment of the king, and ye shall
So
live.
these officers they got to these people in the wilderness. They said, "Listen, come out right now. Come out right now and do what the king said." Right? Come out right now and do what the king said, and you're gonna live. Listen, you know what he's saying? He said, "Open the safe right now, and I will not kill you. We just want the drugs and the money." Right? That for all you worldly brothers, that's the breakdown that will make sense to you, right? Come out right now, open the safe, give me everything in the safe, and I won't harm you. You've seen it throughout every single movie, right? Just we're here to rob the bank. Just put the money in the bag and nobody gets hurt. And that's what they're saying, right? Come out and do what the king wants, and you're gonna live, right? 34.
Verse 34. But they said, we will not come forth, neither will we do the king's commandment to profane the Sabbath day.
Right. So they would have did the commandment, but it was a Sabbath day, so we're not going to profane the Sabbath day doing it, right? They didn't want to do it on the Sabbath day, right? They were better off going up the mountains with Matthias if they weren't just going to do what they were going to do now, right? But they didn't want to profane the Sabbath day. They didn't want to do the king's commandment on that day. They would have did it any other day, right? They just didn't want to be killed at that moment. But if they really wanted to keep the laws of God, they would have went with Mattathias. Keep reading.
Verse 35. So then they gave them the battle without speed.
Read it one more time.
So then they gave them the battle with all speed.
Right. Listen, they were quick with that sword. Slovakia. Listen, they did not hitch. They went to give them that battle fast. Slovakia. Right. Listen, these people, they didn't hesitate. They gave them that battle fast. 30, you could read 36.
Verse 36. Howbeit they answered them not, neither cast they a stone at them, nor stopped the places where they lay hid.
Right. Slovakia. Right. So they answered them not, right? Neither cast a stone at them, nor stop the place where they laid hid. Right, Salakia. Barakia, would you like to try and break that part down?
Khan. Um, they didn't They didn't counterattack.
Oh, Salakia, one moment. Salakia, repeat what you just said.
They did not counterattack.
Right. They did not counterattack. They didn't fight. They didn't fight at all. Right. Now, what kind of man would not fight? Barak Yala, if someone tries to come and kill you and your family, what would you think about the family member who did not want to fight?
They were scared.
Right. They were scared, but make a UPK. How would we say it in the UPK?
They're cowards.
Right. We would say that man is a coward. Right. You don't want to fight. Why you a coward? Like, can you imagine we go to camp and some brother, Lord forbid, some brother turns around and I don't want to fight. What would happen if we're at camp and some group of heathen wants to fight us, but there's a brother who doesn't want to fight? What would happen to the rest of us?
So like how can I put it? The brotherhood will crumble.
Not the brotherhood will crumble. Okay, let me up the ante a little more. If we went to camp and a group of heathens were attacking us and none of us fought, what would happen to us?
We will get beat.
Right, we'd be put to death. Out of Young and Dundas, we would be put to death. Right, some of us would end up in St. Mike's, which is right around the street from Young and Dundas. Right, someone would end up in St. Joseph's, in Mount Sinai, and in Sunnybrook Hospital, fighting for life, clinging for life, because a brother did not want to fight. Right. You could read verse 37.
Verse 37. But said, let us die all in our innocency.
Listen, this is the most cowardice thing I've ever heard. Let us die all in our innocency. That is a coward. And you and I.S.U.P.K, there is no cowards. We don't have any cowards among us. Right? Keep reading.
Heaven and earth shall testify for us.
Salakia. Read that one more time.
But said, let us die in our innocency. Heaven and earth shall testify for us.
Right. So have you heard the heavens tell this story?
A lot of them.
Have you heard the earth tell this story?
A lot of them.
All right, I got you. No sweat, no sweat. One more question, Barak Yala. What is the name of the brother who sang, but let us die in our innocency? Heaven and earth shall testify for us. Do you know his name?
A lot of them.
Right. So heaven and earth did not testify for him. Right. Keep reading.
That you put us to death wrongfully.
Right. Keep reading.
So they rose up, verse 38. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath.
Hold that right there, right? We know Mattathias' name. We know Judas Maccabee's name, right? Because they fought for us to live. These brothers, man, they fought to die. Salakia, they didn't fight. They put their hands down, sat down, and died, right? Terrible leadership. These brothers were the same thing Martin Luther King would have done. He would have marched us down the street. Well, this is what he did. He marched us down the street to get attacked, bitten by German shepherds. Have y'all? No, Salakia. If you want to see the results of the German shepherd attack, just go Google it. You're gonna see gruesome, gruesome wounds. Is nothing to play with, right? That beast is nothing to play with, and they train that beast to hate blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. All right. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath. On the Sabbath, right? Keep reading.
And they slew them with their wives and children, and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people.
Right. So they slew them, right? They slew them with their women and children. Now that is terrible, absolutely horrible, absolutely the worst kind of leadership you could ever have, right? They didn't fight. They didn't fight for their children. Now, Barack Yahala, right? This now, sisters, trigger warning, right? The UPK sisters are strong, so you could understand this, and you'll it's not going to be no sweat because the UPK produces the best sisters, right? Now, Barack Yahala, you just read that their wives and children, right, were slewed. Have you ever known a heathen to just kill a sister and just leave it at that?
A lot of them.
Right. Now, what happens when a heathen goes to attack a sister or a child? That sister is sexually abused. That child is sexually abused. Right. So you're finding out that these heathens, yes, they killed these women and children and the men, but did they just kill them? It's more than safe to say that blah, they didn't just kill him, right? You could go through history and see that the U.S. Army went to Afghanistan, tortured um, men and women and children in Afghanistan. There are countless stories of sexual assaults coming out from the people in Afghanistan and Iraq. There are countless stories of sexual assaults coming out from sisters in the army, in that same army, right? These men are supposed to treat these sisters in the army and even the heathen women in the army like, listen, we're a band of 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 brothers and sisters. We're gonna kill for each other. When really what they're doing is they're sexually assaulting these women and then they're going missing and they're killing the women, right? And read that verse one more time.
Verse 38. So they rose up against them in battle on the Sabbath, and they slew them with their wives and children, and their cattle to the number of 1,000 people.
1,000 people, wives, children, and men died. That is terrible. That's what these heathens do. They've always killed us. Keep reading.
Verse 39. Now when Matthias and his friends understood hereof, they mourned for them right sore.
Listen, you hear 1,000 of your people died and you were just with them. I mean, you're like, why didn't they come up to the mountain with us? They mourned. And they were sore about it. They were hurting about it. Right? Read 40.
Verse 40. And one of them said to another, if we all do as our brethren have done, and fight not for our lives, and laws against the heathen, they will now quickly root us out of the earth.
Listen, this brother said, if we don't fight our children, if we don't fight, one second, let me read that. If we don't fight like our brethren have done, right, for our lives and the laws against the heathen, meaning we have laws that say you can't be like the heathen, you can't sacrifice to their idols, you can't eat pork like the heathens, right? If we don't fight for that, we're going to die, we're going to perish, right? They're going to root us out of the earth, right? And okay, gardening, a little gardening fact about gardening. When you want to get a weed out of your grass, you got to take it out from the root. You can't just cut it out. You got to literally take it out from the root because if there's still roots in the ground, it's just going to spring up again. Because a plant can die and come back to life. That's its cycle, right? A tree will die for 6 months or for 3 months and start to blossom again, right? Time where they declare his name. We could read 41.
Verse 41. At that time, therefore they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day, we will fight against him, neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in secret places.
Right, right. Read that one more time, Baba Kashaw.
Verse 41. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath day.
Right. So they're saying, who's gonna come and fight us on the Sabbath day? Right? We don't care if it's on the Sabbath day. We don't care if it's a Monday. We don't care if it's a Tuesday. But if you come and fight us on a Sabbath day, where Salakia, you know what? I'm gonna break this down to you like this. The UPK says this the best, right? We'll be at camp. Listen, Officer Shariwan said this at camp, right? We were at camp and there was some effeminate Edomite playing drums beside us. We were there first. They came up and played drums beside us. They didn't like that. One weekend we had one speaker. The next weekend I brought two speakers. Right? So now I'm louder than these drums. They don't like anything that I'm saying at all. Because now I know what you're doing and you're just doing it. So I'm just going to do what I do. I'm going to talk about homosexuality. They did not like that. One of those devils tried to turn our speaker. Right? We turned it back. We told him, don't touch our stuff. Back up. This devil tried to do it again. Officer Shariwan told them, listen, we are not Christians. Do not touch our property. Right? We're not Christians. And then that's what this is saying. Read that one more time.
Verse 41. At that time, therefore, they decreed, saying, whosoever shall come to make battle with us on the Sabbath, we will fight against him.
Right. They're saying we're not Christians. If you cross the line, we are going to fight you. Right. And you'll hear this in every UPK speaking and every UPK street speaking, where some heathen thinks they can come up and try to treat us like we're cowards, like we're Christians, like we're not going to defend ourselves righteously, like we're not going to defend ourselves within the law rightfully. Right. That this is what you're going to hear. We're not Christians. Don't cross that line. All right. Keep reading.
We will fight against them, neither will we die all, as our brethren that were murdered in the secret places.
Right. We're going to fight against them so we all don't die like our brethren did. Right. And that's what a good leader does. That's what good leadership does. Right. So let's jump. We're going to bring this class to an end. But before we do, let's jump to verse 49. Because again, Mattathias was a brother with integrity, right? And a brother with integrity, he's going to leave instructions for his children. So you could read 49. Tell them where you're at.
First Maccabees Chapter 2, verse 49. Now when the time drew near that Mattathias should die, he said unto his sons, now hath pride and rebuke gotten strength, and the time of destruction and the wrath of indignation.
Keep reading.
Verse 50. Now therefore, my sons, be ye zealous for the law, and give your life for the covenant of your fathers.
Right. So he's telling them, listen, you have to be zealous of the law. You have to be zealous of the law like your fathers. One moment. Give me one moment. Right. So that's what he's telling them. He's telling them you have to deal with this law, right? And want to do this law and don't compromise and have integrity like your fathers did. Right. And that's what a good leader does. He's instructing his children and how they're supposed to be. So I get on one moment. Right. So we're gonna bring it close to this class. Officer, Salaki, Trooper Baraki Allah, do you have any questions or comments before we close out?
A lot one.
Right, I'm dropping the sign out link right now. Hit that sign out link if you want to get benefits of being a Israelite. If you want to get the benefits of the I.S.U.P.K, hit that sign in link, hit that sign out link. I'm posting the sign out link right now. Give me a moment. Right, let's not forget that every Monday night at 9 p.m. blackwatch.news, right? Blackwatch News on YouTube is going live every Monday night on 9 p.m. on YouTube, right? That is like it's the only YouTube channel, right, outside of every other ISUPK channel that's going to give you the news that really pertains to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, right? It's the only podcast that's going to tell you about the things that actually matter to us, right? Any other podcast, listen, you're not finding anything that matters to us. Listen, there's an effeminate brother who he tells women they're average at best. He sits down and talks to other women and tells them, like, I understand the urge to sleep with other men. And we're like, what? Pause. The hell are you talking about? How do you understand what it's like to want to sleep with other men? Right? Basically, what I'm telling you is, if you want to get like the truth of this Bible, you want righteous leadership, come to the I.S.U.P.K, check out our classes. You don't have to agree, but check it out, right? Once again, I'm Priest and Officer 1000 Zabaja of the I.S.U.P.K. This has been another Monday Night History class. You could go check out Israelite Headquarters. Israelite Headquarters on YouTube right now. I believe I'm quite sure General Mahaiman is going to be teaching class, taking questions, giving breakdowns. Right shortly after that, Blackwatch News on YouTube for news that pertains to Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Don't forget to check us out on I.S.U.P.K Canada, I.S.U.P.K Canada Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Right. We got a brotherhood class coming up tomorrow, 5 to 7, taught by Officer 50 Shar Yuan. Don't forget isupk.com and pay your tithes. Right. Those tithes go to feed Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. If you notice, you didn't hear any Christians talk about how they're helping to feed the Haitians that were at the border. Right. Once again, I'm Priest and Officer 1000 Zabadra. With me, I had Trooper Baraki Allah, Yahweh Bashem Yahshai Barakafem to all the brothers, Yahweh Shemar, Latham Bashem Yahshai to all the sisters. Clap it up. Class dismissed.